Good afternoon, sir. I am Bindon Aisinita.
And I am Nick Adrian Requina, and we're
Here
here to present our project in OOP.
Our project title is Vehicle Purchase Transaction Handling System.
And I am the first to explain in our coding. First, we create class and its attributes, which is the private string vehicle brand, private string vehicle model, and private int vehicle year, private double vehicle price. And next, we make a parameterized constructor vehicle to initialize the attributes, and then we put uh, and and then we also make a getters and setters of attributes. And second, we create a abstract class person with attributes private string name, which is private string address, private string contact. And we also make a parameterized constructor person to initialize the attributes, and we make getters and setters, and we also make a abstract method for the subclasses.
So third, we create a class buyer info that inherits the class person. And then we make a parameterized constructor buyer info and call the super name, address, and contact. And then we override the abstract method get details and update contact by using the getters and setters of super class person. We also created an interface payment method that have a method process payment. And then we create a class cash payment that implements interface payment method. We make a parameterized constructor cash payment to initialize the cash amount. Next, we override the method of interface class process payment to calculate the change. We also created a class card payment which also implements the interface payment method and have an attributes like string card number and double card balance. And then we make a parameterized constructor card payment to initialize its attributes. Then next, we also override the method of interface class process payment to calculate the change. So in the class transaction, we have attributes private vehicle, private buyer info, and private payment method, so that you can access the class vehicle, class buyer info, and interface payment method. Here, we make a parameterized constructor transaction used to initialize vehicle info and payment method. We also make getters and setters of each attributes. And then we make a method void finalized transaction that checks if the money of buyer is enough to buy the vehicle. And after it checks the condition of the method, it displays the information of the buyer and vehicle and its change or the details of the transaction that has been made. And if the money of buyer is not enough or the condition is false, it displays the transaction failed, insufficient payment. So here's our main method. First, we instantiate the class vehicle. So vehicle v1 equals new vehicle and its parameter. Then we also instantiate the class buyer info. So buyer info b1 equals new buyer info, and we put the parameters. And here we use to instantiate the interface payment method, but we use cash payment to avoid error. So payment method pm1 equals new cash payment, and then we put the parameters. Then we instantiate also the class transaction. So transaction t1 equals new transaction, and we put also the parameters. Then we finalize the transaction and call the method finalize transaction to display the transaction information like buyer info and vehicle info. And here is the same. Also, we also instantiate the class vehicle, class buyer info, but we use the card payment na instead of cash. Then we also instantiate the transaction and call the final transaction to display the information of buyer info, vehicle info, something like that. And here's the output of our code.